Hey friends, what's good? Welcome to Storytime. So first thing I want to do is shout out 99 and 1 Apparel for my Holy Forever shirt that I absolutely love. Liz and Ray are over at 99 and 1. Check them out on Instagram. I'm going to put a link below to their website. They are also who I contribute a portion of my income from my website to. They take care of the unhoused. They give them warm blankets and hand warmers and some food and a lot of gospel out there. I love these guys. So check them out. I love their shirts. This is his own original art. Fantastic. So anyway, today's story. Well, let's address this first. Camera, horrible. Lighting, semi. It's grainy for some reason today. And also, this is unedited, so if the dogs bark, just ignore them. And yeah, thanks for your patience in this time while I just learn how to use all my stuff and figure out the lighting in this place. Sun is blasting out there, so I had to just try and figure out what to shut. Anyways, that all being said, that's kind of my disclaimer. I'm here to tell you a story. So, the last story I talked about was about my grandparents living in the park house. Well, I have another set of family members that also lived in a park house. Now, this park house is pretty famous because it's down at Kitts Beach on the west coast, close to or in Vancouver. And so, my aunt and uncle, Auntie Linda, Uncle Darcy, hi. They lived in this park house and cared for the park and the concession stand. And I was quite young back in the day when they were living in this park house. But those were some of the best memories I have of childhood because it was always active at the park house. There, because the concession was attached, there was so much good food involved. It wasn't the same as grandma and grandpa's where you didn't have a lot of treats and stuff and you had to work hard for your money. We got to go to that stand, my brother and I. We'd spend quite a bit of time in the summer. We'd go and hang out. And back then, my auntie and my uncle were quite hippie. They were very hippie. And their house was so fun. Just big cushions, and in the middle of the house was a piano because my uncle Darcy has his master's in music, and so he was and still is extremely talented when it comes to music. He's worked with some of the best musicians in in Canada. So I always loved going to that park house in the summer because it usually meant that during the day we were going to have not only meet a lot of people, we would get to swim in the big pool, we'd get to hang out close to the science center, what's it called? The planetarium. We could go to different places that my brother and I didn't really get to go to while we lived in the other side. We lived in, I think at the time we were living in White Rock, but just getting to visit this aunt and uncle was a highlight of my summer. Now, at this point, they didn't have any children, so it was just my brother and I hanging out with my aunt and uncle. And I remember some really fun times hanging out at the concession stand because there was, like I said, unlimited treats. You could have lollipops and ice cream sandwiches and freezies and hot dogs, and it was so nice to be able to hang out and eat that kind of food because like I was saying, that it wasn't a lot of that happening when we were at grandma's. Usually at nana's there's a lot of treats, but yeah, so we had so much fun there. I remember they had the huge pool. It was an outdoor pool. And then next to the outdoor pool was the ocean, I believe. Yeah, I'm sure it was the ocean. So you'd have the ocean and all the boats and all that stuff. And then you'd have this pool right there. And I can't remember if it was a salt pool from ocean water or if it was, chemically treated at the time. I don't know that we did a lot of that back then in the 70s. But those were some of the best days of my life because usually at the end of the day when I'd be in behind the counter. I think I was about 6 or 7 years old, maybe eight. No, I'm probably 6 or 7. Be behind the counter serving customers, getting to meet new kids and talking to, the elderly people in the area and being just in that environment with so many people on a sunny day because, even though it rains a lot down here in the coast, we did have some beautiful days, I remember. And the massive trees and the grass and the people. There's so much fun outdoors back in the day. And I always say back in the day, but you know what? It's just how nostalgic. I love back in the day. So I'm remembering one night we went in to the house after a nice long day of work. And I think my brother and I might have got paid with money or maybe with food. I'm not sure. But we would sit around, we'd have our supper in my aunt and uncle's house, and it was so cozy. Like I was saying, real hippieville. Like it was so cozy. Plants and just big cushions, and everything was just very comfortable. But my uncle would get on that piano, and because he was so good at making music, I remember him creating a song that he had asked me to be part of. So he would ask us, what do you want me to sing about? And he said, give me a topic. And I said to him one day, I go, what about a crab that bit my toe when I was on the beach? So my uncle proceeded to create the crab that bit Shannon's toe, and it was a hit. It was a hit for us. It never went anywhere further than that living room, but it was such a funny song, and I think I sang it for years and years. I don't remember the lyrics now, but it was kind of jivey, and it got us going. I think I had a tambourine. My brother might have had the maracas. Just beautiful times. Absolutely love that. And we were so innocent, and it was so sweet, and it was so nice. And I haven't seen that aunt and uncle for many years, but I do keep track, and they're on my Facebook, and it's my mom's sister and brother-in-law. So I just wanted to tell you guys about that story because so, the little things that we do in life, if you can, I was a dementia nurse for almost 20 years, and if I can constantly remind myself and have these memories come up and talk about them, it's really hard to watch people lose their memories, but it's nice to have a record of it. So that's kind of why I'm doing this for my children and for my children's children, that these are the things that happened with me and my grandparents. And because a lot of times we just forget these stories and they don't get passed down because we don't talk about them. And then all of a sudden you lose somebody, you lose your mom or your dad, and then you think, man, I wish I asked them about this story. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I want to keep it on YouTube forever. So that's my story. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for subscribing. And if you feel compelled, like, comment, hit the bell for notifications. I'm going to do a new story every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. and I'm going to throw in bonus or short stories in the week if I come up with them in my mind, because I have unlimited amounts of stories in this brain. They hold a lot of stories, and they're usually irrelevant topics, but they're pretty much almost always nostalgic. And just come back with me to memory lane and we'll talk about old stuff. And if you get a chance, check out, if you're into the Christian apparel, check out 99 and 1. I will link them below. I'll figure out how to do that. I'm pretty sure I can do it. And they're also on my website, which is, you can go to my Instagram, Shannon Braybrook or Shannon Braybrook Art, and you can find my website right there on the bio. And yeah, I'm going to figure out how to put that into this on the bottom of my YouTube as I get better at this. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. And that's it. God bless you. Have a great day.